Welcome to the Woman Aesthetic Podcast. Join us in seeking deeper meaning and striving to live fully in our womanhood. Welcome to the Woman Aesthetic Podcast. I'm your host, Anna. Today, I am so excited to speak with Mary Harper, the woman behind Liturgical Style. Mary Harper graduated from Ave Maria University with her Master's of Arts and Bachelor's of Arts in Theology. She lives her dream of teaching high school theology alongside her husband, a fellow theologian, while also being the head writer for Litany NYC. You might have heard of her through her account, Liturgical Style, where she is building an audience for her upcoming book. Mary, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Anna. It's so good to be here.
So I would love to start about, I want to start the conversation with hearing about your personal style journey, because, everyone kind of, I think, starts off a little rough and we have to find our groove, but yours is so, it's so new to me. I haven't really heard about liturgical style. I haven't explored it. And so I just want to hear, where did your style start, and just kind of go through that journey?
For sure. Yeah. So I grew up with all sisters. I'm the youngest of two older sisters. And so naturally I looked up to them. And I would say the first time I feel like I started kind of experimenting with style was probably when I was in middle school. And this was, early 2000s. And you had the trends in the early 2000s were terrible. Like these low-waisted jeans and like this, all my friends would wear like Nike shorts. I definitely wore orange plaid Bermuda shorts, like nobody's smart. I'm like, that was probably my most horrific fashion choice. But anyways, I remember when my oldest sister, she was in high school, she started going to a youth group and became friends with these girls that were just on fire for their faith. And so they would all wear these like midi skirts that were kind of the ones actually that are back in style now, with like the tiered style.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember like it was so unique because everyone else just wore like a t-shirt and jeans or whatever. So I was like, oh, it's kind of fun and pretty, and me wanting to be like my sisters. And I made this connection of, oh, okay, cool. If you really love Jesus, you dress in a pretty way. And so I started wearing skirts like them, and I'd feel like really pretty. And then and so I feel like in high school, I kind of I really prided myself in not looking like everyone else. And so I enjoyed, wearing different skirts and dresses on dress down days. And it really kind of began as this way of not wanting to just be in the mix. Because if I'm being honest, everyone around me would just wear t-shirts and Nike shorts. And so I was like, that's so boring. I want to have fun. And so I think that's kind of where it began. I would say that this also kind of leads into a little bit of like my modesty journey. And so moving forward, when I was about like a junior or senior in high school, I started beginning to have this kind of skewed idea that like only those that like because I wear a skirt and a dress, like I am acting in a holier way. Not that I look down at other people, like I was like, oh, it's cool, you wear whatever you want, but I know that I'm acting more like a saint because I'm dressing in this way. And not coming so much from pride as much, I think, just like a misunderstanding of dress. And then it kind of became muddled because there was like this kind of toxic friendship relationship I was in. And I remember going to a water park with this group of, again, good Catholic friends. But I had a cute little like one piece on. I had like a little swim skirt. But I'm like, was actually self-conscious. I kind of like this guy. And so I asked him, I was like, do you think, is this modest? And he said, no, I think you need to wear more. And so I took that to heart. I was like, shoot. So I put on a t-shirt. I put on a midi skirt. I was wearing 4 layers to a water park. And because on one hand, I did it out of pride. I was like, haha, I'm winning. I have more layers on than anyone. So on one hand, it was that. And on the other part, this is when the scrupulosity really started to take a foothold of like, I am legitimately scared now that if you can see any formation of my body, that I'm acting in sin. And so even when I would wear a maxi skirt, I would wear a midi skirt under it. Like it was this concern of like, I need to wear a lot of layers. So I would say, so then it kind of became this habit of I went to college. In my freshman year of college, I had like, gosh, I would just go to the thrift store and like just get all the skirts that I liked. And like, that was it. That was just like, that's what you get, Mary. Like, you could choose skirts. That's your option. That's the only aisle you look in. And I remember becoming kind of fatigued by this, of just like, oh, this is all I get to wear. Well, now I'm a freshman in college and I'm meeting all these wonderful, like, holy Catholic women, and they dress beautifully. And shocker, they're also wearing pants and shorts, and they dress like Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly, and they look so classy. And I'm like, that's so fun. But I could never wear that because I just wear skirts. And like, I can run a 5K in a skirt, and I can climb a mountain in a skirt. And like, I get it. So it really became this part of my identity. And no one ever gave me a hard time about it. People were always like, yeah, you're so cool. So I was like, yeah, like, it really made this part of my core. And so it wasn't until spring of my freshman year in college that I was joining a household. And the week of discerning with this household, this group of women that like we prayed together. We have different saints and charisms, and we'll do night prayer together, things like that. So discerning whether I want to make a commitment of like praying with this group of women throughout my college experience, each day we had this is actually so cool thinking about this, that they probably inspired liturgical style a bit, is that we would wear something that would remind us of the charism we were praying with. And which is funny, like I often don't think of that as something that could have also inspired liturgical style. Mm-hmm. But I remember on the day that we were praying with our patron, Saint Joan of Arc, and we were also praying with the Marian virtue of profound humility. We were to wear a black shirt, jeans, messy bun, no makeup, or just like hair up, like, just like very simple. And I remember like shaking in my boots because I was like, I'm going to have to wear a pair of jeans. Like, are you kidding me? And I remember like having like this literal crisis. I was on the phone with one of my sisters, and she knows my heart so well. And she was so gentle. And she just said, Mary, do you think like there might at all be this like attachment or this shackling to your identity of what you're wearing? Like, might this be actually the opportunity that the Lord wants to bring healing or maybe set you free? But I was like, well, what if people say something, or like, what, and this is just all over wearing a pair of jeans. Like, heaven help us all. Praise God for healing. But it's like, it was this really big deal. And yeah. And so she just told me, she's like, I think you just got to wear them, borrow some from a friend. And she's like, but I'm going to challenge you and say, you can't give anyone the disclaimer to say, I'm wearing jeans today because I'm doing this thing for household. You just got to wear them like it's, if someone directly asks you, why are you wearing this? Then you can't answer. Which that was so hard for me. I literally wanted to send out a mass text that was like, warning, I'm going to be wearing. Which, yeah, again,
warning
shows you like
everybody.
Right. No, seriously. Yeah. This kind of shows you just like how muddled my brain was with this. And yeah, just some interior weeds the Lord had to work out. Like the clothing was like the tip of the iceberg. Like there was a lot of deeper scrupulosity and things going on there that the Lord had to really sift through. And he's so gentle with us. Like, and that's always my encouragement, is like, if you're someone that wrestles with what you're wearing and you see that connected to any form of anxiety or scrupulosity, just knowing that the Lord in his compassion, his tenderness is not going to come at you and be like, well, you're the worst. I'm not going to give you grace till you figure this out. Mm-hmm. But he's so gentle, and he puts people in our life to remind us of that, remind us of his mercy. So that gentle encouragement through my sister who wore the jeans that day. I think I had a couple of friends ask. I definitely still would like tell people. I had some friends that wore jeans that day to be like in solidarity with me, which I thought was really sweet. Yeah, it was really cute. Someone was like, are you wearing jeans? And then they were like, we're wearing jeans too. Why are you wearing? It was just so funny. So that was really sweet. So that's kind of what started. I would say that summer, that was kind of got the wheels turning of like, maybe there's something more here. And so I went and I think I got like my first pair of actual jeans that were like just straight cut jeans. I got some cute little boardwalk shorts I still own those shorts because they're really significant to me.
Oh.
And I just learned, and that like opened the can of worms, but the good kind of like, I have so many possibilities now of what to wear. And so that's when I really began experimenting. And then, so Lily Fallon also went to Ave Maria, and she was really good friends with one of my sisters who also went there. And I always looked up to her. And so she would, hearing everything she would ever talk about with personal style, I remember like hearing about her Verily journey and stuff. So that also, she totally had a big impact too, as far as me like taking the leap and experimenting with personal style. So yeah, and I would say with each year throughout college, I just had other friends that were like really into style and wanting to try things. But again, looking to a lot of like different classic figures, like I said, like not that Audrey Hepburn and Grace Kelly are the end all be all, but like they have brought us a lot of classics and basics, very popular, that are still, you know, good to this day.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'd say that's really where it took off. And then I have found like with each new season of life, I have gone through find out more and more, okay, because we're changing, right? So like your personal style is probably going to evolve every 5 years. Not that you're getting a new wardrobe, but the way that pair of shorts I still have from when I was in college, I wear them differently now. Like I just style them differently. So the fact that your personal style kind of grows with you because it's reflecting the seasons you're going through and communicating, your growth as a person and what it is you want someone to know about you. That is the long story.
No, I love it. I think it's really beautiful. The Bermuda shorts, completely. I remember mine. They were brown and pink, and I thought I was so cool. I was like, these are it. I think everybody though goes through that. It is rough, like for a woman and for a girl to find that, because you're navigating, like you said, like the modesty. Where's that at? If you know, if that's important to you, which it should be important to you. For me, my mom was very generous in helping my sister and I dress well. And so she would come and help pick things out and, you know, things like that. But again, as I grew older, I'm like, okay, well, is this what I like? Is this actually what I feel comfortable in? And yeah, come college, oh my gosh, I want to burn all the pictures that ever existed, because I was like, what were you wearing? Like, what were you wearing? But it's okay. It's okay. Those days are behind me. But yeah, like you said, it does take, like, I do, now that you mentioned like every 5 years, I'm thinking, yeah, that's absolutely it. Like every 5 years, it has been evolving, and I'm like somewhat at a beginning at this moment, like of my style evolving, and I love it. And it's just interesting. I was like, I never thought I'd wear stuff like this, but yeah. I think you're so right. I think you're so right. Like having the rough years, you're like, be open to your style changing, but also I think it's beautiful that the women in your life were there to support you, and sometimes even to gently be like, hey, you know, maybe just try that. Like, it's gonna be okay. You know, I just love that we all need, you know, that support. But you also, so you work for Litany, right? As a writer. So with that, I'd love to talk about that, because I'm sure that has influenced somewhat of your personal style. But I also would love to learn about the company and how it got started, its mission, and just how it got involved in your life and vice versa.
Yeah. Oh man. So so Litany is an ethical, sustainable fashion company run that was started by Veronica and Olivia. So Olivia is now a Dominican of Hawthorne, and she had the wisdom and the confidence to still launch this business plan with Veronica right out of college, knowing she was going to enter in a few months. Wow. Which I think how beautiful that the Lord, like our dreams do not come against our vocation. And so, she still writes with us and is praying for us, and she's hands-on, you know, healing the sick and ministering to bodies and souls, the way that Litany hopes to clothe them. And so I would say our main thing that makes us stand apart is our garments are made to measure. So we have garments that can literally be like extremely custom to your literal, your wrist size and every single part of you. And then there's other garments that we can create to just make sure that it's always adjusted to you. So we don't have standard sizing. That's a whole nother soapbox I could get on. There was like rebellions in the streets in the 50s when they tried to do standardized sizing in department stores because it was just for military garments. And then they thought,
I had no idea.
Women's dresses. Women burn dresses in the streets. Like they were like, how dare you say that my body is the same as hers? We are all unique. Like I'm like, yeah, isn't that awesome? So this idea of like, yeah, we're so unique. And so yeah, just side note, if you're confused why you're one size at one store and at another, it's because there's actually no standard. Because literally we're all so different. So don't look at the size tag.
But, I will not from now on look at the size tag.
Yeah. No, seriously, like I just get in the habit of how do you want that to fit you? So just try them on until you're like, oh, I want it to fit me in a more fitted way or looser way, whatever, like ignore the tag. And yeah, so with Litany, all of our designs have different theological meanings woven into them. So Veronica typically will do a whole like dream board and like pray through what is it that she desires to bring about in this collection or this piece. And she has like all these like scrapbooks and stuff. And it's a lot like that's how she prays is like through these different collaging and scrapbooking and even like little pieces of her own life, her own heart that are put into these pieces. And then she'll design them, sketch them out, draw them, use her iPad designing them stuff. And then we have different discussions with the factory. We know that those that work with us by name, in order that it's not just this anonymous business of bringing back humanity into the fashion industry. Because essentially her and Veronica, Olivia and Veronica, having gone to fashion school in New York, they just saw the damage in the industry and just like the pain. And they're like, let us be a vessel for healing. So that's the short version. You can find their full story and their testimony on our website. They've also been featured on a few different news channels because it's just really cool what they're doing. Yeah. So as far as my involvement with them, I've reached out to them around like late 2020, early 2021, and they had not even been a year old yet. And I heard order of them from a friend. And I'd always had this little dream, probably beginning, around the time I was discovering my personal style. Like, how cool to like one day get to like combine, to be able to write on theology and fashion. I don't know what that would look like, but that'd be so fun. And so I reached out to them and they were so excited to take someone on to just do research and blog for them. And so I write all of the articles. I'll say almost all the articles that are on there. I think there's a couple that I don't think I've written, but nearly all the articles on there, in which case it's different. Yeah, a lot. That's kind of where liturgical style was born. And so it began. So a lot of my articles have to do with like the theological layers and meanings behind each product and between the designs. But then in 2022, during Holy Week, I said, hey, for fun, I think I'm just going to write an article about like what to wear like each day of Holy Week. That way it's not just what you wear on Easter and Good Friday, but like the whole week. How cool. So I have this scripture and like down to like your jewelry differences. And then we had never had that much traffic on the website. It was crazy.
Wow.
So that's when Veronica was like, yeah, you definitely need to keep writing like this. At this point too, Lily was on our team. And so Lily and Veronica were both super encouraging about like, okay, yeah, like keep writing these. So then I started doing this for all the solemnities on the feast days and it was just taking off. And so about a year later from that article, that was still the thing drawing people into our website. And so Lily and Veronica were like, oh, write a book about it. And we kind of joked like, let's all write a book. And then in one afternoon, I had already pulled up all these sources and wrote like a chapter. And then they're like, actually, you're going to write the book. We'll support you. But like, clearly the Lord has put this on your heart and like, you go for it. Like we got your back. And so, so since 2023, I have been researching, compiled it, and all of the writing was completed as of like this past January. Lily's been my editor. And so as of this year, it's just been a matter of fine tuning it and just trying to find a publisher. Yeah,
Wow,
so I
this
feel
is
like
so
looking,
exciting.
yeah, and now I have this project that's going on. So
Wow. Well, I can't wait because I've seen your like videos, I've seen all of the stuff on Instagram, and I think it's such a cool concept. And so I cannot wait to like read an entire book on it because it is different having something that's like right there, hard copy you could refer to. It can definitely be much more present in your life and you can make it part of your life that much easier. So I'm so excited for the book. It sounds incredible. But I wanted to ask, do you think dressing liturgically is a form of devotion or a way to live your life more fully?
mm,
And do you think it influences your prayer life?
okay, good question. Yeah, so I feel like so as far it's kind of a matter of what you're called to. So on one hand, I I think it can be treated as devotion in the same way that if someone has made a commitment of like, I'm gonna, not putting it at the same level as these devotions, but like if you're like, I'm gonna wear the scapular and I'm gonna do this consecration, I'm gonna do this thing, and or I'm gonna veil even all of these things that are good things, holy things, and you find that it is leading to distraction, duress. I think especially the physical, like sacramentals or like Marcos medal, and it's causing more like anxiety and stuff, it's not a sin to stop it or like put it away or be like, maybe the Lord's not calling us out of this season. So I think it should be treated as devotion in the sense that it's something you can pick up if you're called to and you get put down. It is not like a you're all in or out kind of a deal. Um, but I think with all devotionals, being aware in our own heart posture of how we're approaching it. Why am I doing this? Am I doing this out of a good intention? I think especially, like I said, the physical ones, like with veiling, I think for sure there comes a lot of discernment with that. Of it can be something super fruitful, but if you become obsessive with the way you're looking at it, or again, it's just a distraction, then yeah, just drop it. And then lifestyle, for sure, I think it can become very second nature. I can also speak to the fact of like there's moments where like I feel like this all October I've been trying to align my outfits with like thinking the mysteries of the rosary, and that's just been easier for me when I'm like, I don't know what to wear today, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna focus on these particular colors based on these mysteries. Great. There's other days that I'm just overwhelmed or too stressed to think about it, and so I'm just pulling the first thing that's easy and that's simple that I can just take out. But always, I think it has become a habit of inviting Jesus into the moment, and a lot of the times, as simple as like, just Jesus help me, or like, come Holy Spirit, like just help me do this, because from personal experience, I have been the person that's staring at my closet for like an hour. Because a lot of times, it's like my thoughts are just going, and it's like the way I calm down. Or other times, I can't bring myself to choose something or whatever. So that's, I feel like, become more of the lifestyle or the rhythm of liturgical style, just inviting the Lord into it. So even if you don't get to the point of you're able to dress with the liturgical calendar, like if you are at least able to invite the Lord into it, like I think that is significantly a liturgical act. I think that it becomes this act of worship. Um, and then what was your last question? You said devotion, lifestyle.
And I was wondering if it influenced your prayer life.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
I
I was
think,
gonna say it
yeah,
definitely sounds like it does.
yeah. So I think for sure. And it can be, again, a really good reminder, especially when I'm dressing for a feast day, or like I said, thinking of Holy Week, like remembering where we are in Holy Week, or where we are in the liturgical year. What saints intercession am I asking for, or what mystery am I praying with? So that way, if you're going through your day and you're having a rough moment, you look down at what you're wearing. It's like, oh, great, Mom's with me. Thanks, Mom. Please pray for me. I think can be really helpful.
Yeah. Well, oh man, yeah. I think everybody has that moment, where you're standing at your closet, like you said, and you're like, I don't have anything to wear, and you're staring at like 15 sweaters. You're like, you absolutely do
Yeah,
have something to wear. Like, pick something. Um,
yeah.
but I think, yeah, with getting dressed, I love that what you were saying about being able to look down and just be like, oh, this is today. like it's just a constant reminder. But also while you were talking about, looking at your closet, I thought about the phrase, the Lord's amongst the pots and pans, And so if he's there with you doing your daily things, like, of course he's there with you while you're doing other things, especially things like getting dressed, and bringing honor to him by, putting things on your body that make you look more beautiful or enhance your beauty, however you want to put it there.
Sure, sure.
But I also so while you're doing that, I do want to go back to the modesty thing, because I think a lot of people struggle either being too immodest or like going to the point where it is scrupulous and it's kind of defeating the purpose of what it is. So with modesty, it is such a core value in our Catholic faith, but how do you balance modesty with your personal style in today's, fashion world?
Yeah. I love the way that Lily describes this in her book, Theology of Style. So little plug for her about that. And yeah, so yeah, like sincerely, this is what when I talk about with my students, I draw from her source, because I think she has worded it with great wisdom in that. So modesty is this overflow of being rooted in one's identity. So being rooted in one's identity as a daughter of the Father. So it doesn't do anyone any good or any benefit to just say, follow these rules until you get it. It's like, that's not like, sure that there is a placement for it for like guidance, but what's more fruitful is, I think, these are my more practical tips. What allows you, and this also comes inspired from Lily, what allows you to move freely and be fully present? So if I am so fixated on what I'm wearing and how I'm moving and all these different things that like I can't even listen to the words that you're saying. Okay, one, is that just like a me problem? Is that like a heart posture problem? Like maybe that has nothing to do with what I'm wearing, but sometimes it does, The example I use when I teach this with my students is I say, okay, imagine if you're going on a hike with some friends and you decide to wear flip-flops and your flip-flop keeps falling off and now you have a cut on your foot and now you can't finish the trail and everyone has to wait for you. And not that you're the problem, but you forgot proper footwear and it's this whole thing. And like this could have all been avoided if you just had what was appropriate for the occasion. And so what allows you to be fully present and move freely to what you're called to. And then the other example I'll use that I think always has my students get riled up in a good way, that they're like, that'd be terrible. As I said, hey, what if you're about to have your big soccer tournament and your teammate really wants to make a statement? So she shows up fully covered head to toe in her prom dress. And it's like, again, fully covered. She's wearing more clothing, more material in her body than your soccer uniform. So isn't she being modest? No, they're angry. I'm like, why? Like, because what she's wearing makes no sense for the occasion. It's disrespectful to the people. You can't play in that. I'm like, okay, awesome. So having the occasion in mind that allows you to move freely, be fully present to both the task at hand and the people around you. So I think that's huge. I'm trying to remember what my other one was. Yeah, those are my main ones. Is I feel like if you're able to move freely in it, and then you have, because it's not a matter of just how covered can I be, because that can just be problematic in other settings. So yeah, thinking of your environment, thinking of what your action is, and then what allows you to move freely. And I think that just allows more, because again, like body type's a huge thing, and so your body type, what's going to be short on her or whatever is going to be different on you. The way that shirt fits you fine is going to fit her a different way. So like that's why I feel like these measurements and guidelines, I think, could be really difficult. And then at the end of the day, just talk to someone that really knows your heart and really loves you, because I think they will be able to offer the best guidance as far as what's going to be appropriate for the occasion, and will know how to give you the advice that you need.
Yeah. No, that is really true. Having the people in your corner who can, gently remind you and gently guide you. I was wondering, okay, I think this is like a big I don't know. People get all up in arms about this, but you come to a party or, whatever, you're hanging out with friends. Um, should you, as a woman, should you keep in mind the fact that it's not just going to be girls, there's also going to be men. And do I have at all, because you were saying, like move freely amongst the, you have to move freely what you're doing, but should you also be able to move freely with who you're with? So if there is a men or women, do you think it's different, or do you think it doesn't really matter? It's more about clothing yourself in a dignified way. What do you think about that?
I think this comes from personal experience. The way I'm going to dress among, and I guess I mean like family or those that know me in an intimate way. They have encountered me. They know me. Like my family's going to see me in my pajamas, I guess. But like I don't know. But if I'm going to a girls' night and I've never met any of these women before, I don't think I'd be super confident going to a pajama party. That's a personal thing. I don't know. Maybe that's silly. I went to an all-girls high school growing up and stuff too, but I don't know. I guess just the way that I feel like relationship is key. But I also think as far as if we're coming to like romantic relationships and someone that you're dating and whatnot, I mean, I think it just comes down to again, what is your goal? What is your intention? What are you trying to communicate through what you're wearing? And you can be honest with yourself. We know if we're trying to communicate something more, if I'm intentionally exposing more. But again, I think another example I have thought of, so some people have the argument of, well, I'm so confident in who I am. I'm so confident in my dignity that I can strut down the street wearing whatever I want. It doesn't matter. The exposure is fine because I am confident. I'm doing it out of confidence. To which I would say, wow. And it's so unfortunate that we live in a broken world, that we live in a fallen world, because you are so right. Like you should have the freedom to not have to wear clothing. That's how Adam and Eve were. Like how awesome. Like that's true. But since the fall, there's been a skewed lens. There's been a broken lens in which we are no longer able to just look at a person and know their entire soul through their body. There is now a blurry vision. In which case, now the body has become an obstacle in a way to receive the soul. And so with that, out of reverence and out of love for every person I encounter, especially a stranger, I'm not going to demand of them that now that because my body expresses the soul, and if I'm like, I'm going to walk down the street naked because I'm confident because I can, that would be demanding of every person who sees me. Well, now you have to accept me exactly as I am. You have to know all my brokenness. You have to know all that I am. You have to know my entire soul. You have to accept me completely as a sacrament because the body expresses the soul. So the more that I am revealing entirely of my body is an expression of you can receive me totally, which is why you have the theology of the body term naked without shame within the sacrament of marriage. In which case there is the sacramental grace there, in which there is a sacrament, there is a complete yes to the full body and soul of the other. And so I feel like that would be my main response of just, you're right. Like there should be this freedom, but we know since the fall that is not there. And so out of a protection, out of love for the other, in order that they can come to know me in a more real way, I'm going to clothe my body. Because I know that they do not have the capacity to know me wholly, and they're not supposed to know. The whole world is not supposed to know all of my soul. Is not supposed to know the entire intimate center. There's going to be only those that I've entered into sacrament with. Yeah. Cool. Long answer. I hope that was
No,
clear.
I think that was really clear. I love how you put together, the body and the soul, because I think sometimes we can forget that your soul will shine through. And yes, sometimes you are so confident, you don't care what people think, and so I'm going to go out, and if I don't care, you shouldn't care. But I think for people, especially who do see that, like, no, you are body and soul, we do see. And so we're like, I'm not like you put it, I haven't entered into any sacrament where I am worthy to view you that much, you know? And so I love that you put it that way, because I think people do sometimes, you bring in the conversation of, well, you're responsible for making sure he's not looking, you're responsible. But to a point, I know it's a whole different thing. But I think, everything has extremes. And so we need to think about it. What is the actual core truth? And it is that we're a body and soul. That's the core truth. And what does that mean? And so I think, the extremes, it could be a great discussion about these extremes. But I think, if people can come back to we're body and soul and sacred, and we need to honor that because God honors that. I think that's where it just truly lies. Modesty at its core. So that's kind
of. And I think, like I said, like I would encourage, to ask if we're able to always go back to the question of what is my intention? What am I desiring to communicate? And if we take the extra step of inviting the Lord into the process, and then the practicals of, is this appropriate for the occasion? Am I able to move freely? If that is the focus, I really do think like 97% of the time, I'm just making that up, but I feel like a majority of the time, we're going to be okay. Like you're going to be on par. And if there's still a struggle, or you're like, I'm not confident enough in my discernment yet, like I said, have that friend or that sister or whoever it is that knows you, and that they're confident too in their own, because don't ask a person that's also asking the same question, and we're all confused.
The blind leading the blind.
Find somebody who's also secure in themselves, and you admire how they dress, you admire how they style and stuff, and you trust them. Talk to them. But I think because I think we can just get into a lot of weeds when we start saying like, well, you got to do it because this or different things like that. I think it can get really tricky. So
Well, I'd love to dive into actual liturgical calendar, of the Catholic Church, and reflected that through your personal style, because you have that on your Instagram bio. And I was like, that is a perfect way to just sum the whole thing up. And I think maybe that's why you have it on your bio. But how do you incorporate like the colors and the themes of the liturgical calendar into your everyday without losing your personal style?
Oh, yeah. So it is, I always say it's the best launching pad. Because if I said like, wear red, there's like a million shades of red. So, but you know what I mean? And like, it's the way someone's going to wear like her little cherry earrings, or I have my red bandana, or she has her red purse, or she has her favorite red sweater dress, or her red cowboy boots. Like these are all such different expressions of a color, right? Or even material, like a linen, like button up suit vest thing is going to look different than like your linen scarf versus her linen shorts, pants, skirt, pleated, whatever. Like there's so many different things. So the textile and the color, it's like, again, it's scratching the surface. It's the very beginning. And so as far as where this comes from, I was very adamant from the beginning of when I wrote my articles, and then especially when I've been fine tuning my book, is I never want anyone to read it and it's like, oh, she just felt like putting that. And so especially with my book, I go really deep into the scripture, and then I'll have a church father and then a saint and then this connection. And there's a lot of sources. And so this is an idea that's already been in the church, and I'm just bringing it to surface of how it's always been there. So especially as a good theologian, you never want to accidentally be a heretic and have a novel idea. And so that's why I was really relieved that every time I'd read something about garments in the liturgy, I was like, great, this isn't a new idea. We've been doing this for a while as a church. And so, the liturgical calendar is set up as those rhythms. We're made for seasons. And so the same way we change our garments according to what you wear in the fall versus in the spring versus summer, it's going to change, but also things can be carried through. I mean, what I wear red for Pentecost, I'm going to probably be wearing throughout the year for different martyrs' feast days. So you could have, you could have one of those capsule wardrobes, or only 5 items of clothing, because priests and religious have a literal habit, or they're like their same outfit, and they are praying liturgically. They're praying through their garments. And so in the same way, anyone that gets concerned about that, it's like, no, people that have like one thing to wear can also dress liturgically. Yeah. So a lot of, sourcing from it. And then, so I give you and like, I make the style reels of just, this is how I'm styling it. But if you only wore earrings as a reminder of that day, that is still dressing liturgically. So I try my reels, I'm like going all out to show all the possibilities. But if I'm being honest, most of the time I'm only wearing a piece or two to remind me. I don't always have the energy to do these full blown outfits. So I feel like that's definitely big. Some people get concerned about that. They're like, oh, this is too aggressive. And like, I'm just showing you all the options. Like there's so much freedom.
The beauty of like personal style, you can choose what fits your life. But do you ever feel I would say, what is my question? Is there a challenge in trying to merge your like personal style and the liturgical dress, but also like having this modern fashion that's, part of our everyday? Do you have a challenge kind of merging all those together? And if you do, like, how do you overcome that? Because I think some of us do, we want to wear things that are present day, but sometimes it's hard, finding pieces.
Sure. This is also why I love thrifting. I'm always a thrifting girl because I love, looking for classic pieces. And again, because I'm big on like sustainability and stuff, I really do avoid different trends. I do follow different fashion pages that talk about like micro trends, macro trends, or like I look to other like people just in the secular world in general, like for inspiration. That's not bad. But I also will notice like, oh, she's wearing that, but also that's actually something that's been popular for the last 50 years. Like maybe that's something I'd like, and I'll typically sit on something for a while. Or a lot of times I'll try mimicking a trend or a style, even in my silhouettes. I feel like that's easy. So that way we're not giving into consumerism, but we're still giving off the same aesthetic. I don't really think there is an obstacle with it. I mean, it's so funny. I don't know if you've seen any of my thrifting and theology reels. There's like 2 of them. I say it as if there's like a whole bunch. But really you can take anything. Nearly any garment can have theology applied to it. Some is easier than others. It's just a matter of you having the insight and the information of knowing when to apply it. Of like, okay, so for example, your hunter green olive sweater would be so perfect for any time, and you're in ordinary time right now. So good on you. If it's wool,
I totally did it on purpose.
I love it.
Totally don't. No, I did not.
So anytime, wool can work for Good Shepherd Sunday. It can work for talking about John the Baptist. It can even connect during the time of the Nativity with the shepherds. You can wear that same sweater if it's not too hot on Holy Thursday, because of he's in the Garden of Gethsemane, which was the olive grove and known as the olive press. So like olive green really connects with that. And lo and behold, I just came across this thing that was like trending this autumn, olive green. And I said, it's because it's ordinary time, you silly fashion people. So you know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can, like, it's just funny. I feel like once you become adept and just looking at the world through a liturgical lens, you're going to see it everywhere. And again, because I've written a book on it and I teach it and I'm reading about it, I can see anything. I was like, oh, clearly this is it. I think it just becomes a matter of building that habit. So I don't think, I think nearly all garments can find a place into it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I said, totally on purpose. I wore my green. No, honestly, I was like, oh, today's a cold day. I'm going to wear my like coziest sweater. But now I am gonna pay attention to that. It's gonna make any dress like so. It's gonna make it so fun. But yeah, how do you think dressing liturgically and modestly reflects a woman's identity as a daughter of God?
Oh, cute! I love that. Yeah, I have not yet had this happen. Actually, maybe I've had it happen a couple times with my students. But the dream would be that you have a really fun outfit on and you're like at the supermarket or something and someone's like, oh my gosh, I love your outfit. And you're like, yeah, it's because today's the feast day of Saint whoever and I'm Catholic. Like, I don't know how this conversation would come up organically, but I'm like, the dream would be that it could be a way to like evangelize, or that like it could lead into a conversation about like, yeah, it's because I'm Catholic, so I dress like this. Like, how fun. St. Francis de Sales was like, Catholics need to be the best dressed people in the room. And I'm like, okay, Francis, calm down.
You're like, I'm going to write a book about that. I'm going to take that to heart.
Yeah, right. And I just think it's funny because it's like, how funny if that became the thing of like, oh, they're definitely Catholic. I mean, look how they're dressed. But
that would be beautiful. That would be beautiful. I love that. Honestly,
yeah.
like,
and you know, sometimes because I went to a Catholic college, sometimes I do play this game with my friends, and I'm like, are they going to church or are they just hipsters? Like, I don't know which one. And like, I'm like, do I yell at the cards? Are you Catholic? Like, what are you? I'm like, I won't do that. I won't freak them out. But there are, or like you go to like a normal concert or something and you see someone's outfit and you're like, so like, do you know Jesus? Or like, do you just dress like that? Like, I don't know. It's just how my eye works now. So
I feel like that's like your ultimate pickup line. Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Yes, no. Except you don't go to the doorway. You just yell out the car window, you know, just make sure. Yeah, I think that's beautiful though. I have never heard that where, yeah, Catholic people should be the best dressed people. I mean, it kind of makes sense because we do have this theology about this entire person, about our souls, all these really deep meanings. And we reflect on them. We should reflect on them every year, every single like time in the, you know, in the calendar. It's different. And so we have the chance to have this really whole look at the person. And how we relate to Christ and his life and Mary and, you know, the saints and all of that. And so I'm like, of course, that makes sense that would transfer to our dress. That would transfer to how we handle or how we hold ourselves and how we interact with others and treat them. And yeah, of course, style would be part of it. I don't think we think of style as part of it. I don't know. Maybe it's also because times have changed. You know, people used to dress really well and now it's like, you might find someone, you know, at Walmart in their pajamas and you wouldn't give them a second glance because you're like, oh, yeah, you know, like it's normal now, but we're called to so much more. I love that. I haven't thought about it that way. Now I'm like, man, I'm going to go look at my wardrobe and that's going to be my Saturday. Okay. That's what I'm going to be doing. But can you share, you know, any examples of other Catholic figures or saints who have, you know, inspired your own style and the way that you dress?
Two immediately come to mind. 2.5. Okay, 2.
I'm interested about the half.
The half will make sense. So one, for sure. So Blessed Chiara Luce Badano. So she, not Chiara Petrillo. There's a few Chiaras out there, but Chiara Badano, she's the younger one. I've always loved her. I've had a close connection with her for a while. And it wasn't until one of my rabbit holes I went down the past year of like all these photos of her. She had so much fun with style. And she was like an 80s, 90s baby. So she just had the cutest, like funky things to try, like these wild puff sleeved rompers and like some these classic like sweaters paired with her red bright sweater paired with her red sweater matched her red socks that she wore with like these lace up Oxfords and her cute jeans and her blue striped shirt. I don't know. She's really classy. She has a lot of like these like chic outfits. And then also like you see pictures of her hiking and then you also have pictures of her wearing some wild outfits. And I'm like, that's so 80s. I don't know if I could have ever worn that. Like these like suspenders over this like bright yellow shirt. I'm like, wow, you're so fun. Love Kira. JP2, the man of hats. there's so many pictures of him wearing different kinds of hats from when he was little, even through the papacy, when he would even at times wear like a cute little beret, or like before he I think even when he was a priest, he had this fun like little Newsies cap, or so yeah, I love JP2 and his hats situation. And then half because she's still alive, and so I'm like, hope she doesn't hear me, but maybe she'll appreciate it. Blessed Carlo's mother, a queen. Any image that she is in with Carlo, I'm like, sorry, Carlo, you're cool, but like your mother? Are you kidding me? Like, stunning woman. And there's some great, look her up. She's great.
I will.
Yeah, there's this picture of her, of like Carla's like 4 or something, and she has this beautiful like white trench and like a scarf, and she's flowing. I'm like, who are you?
Who are you?
Catholic lady? Yeah, so those are mine.
The half makes sense now. It makes sense. Also her being, she was a mother and dressing really well. That resonates with me because I'm like, I try and dress appropriate to my everyday, but also put effort into it because, I'm dressing for myself, but I'm also dressing for God, but I'm also dressing for my husband, and which God forbid I dress for my husband. That's like a whole different spiel. But yeah, I'm dressing for my husband and I'm dressing for my children because I have boys and girls. And so like, they're gonna see me. And so they're gonna either learn, okay, this is kind of what you wear, how you dress, or like, this is what a woman's supposed to wear, like a godly woman. So I do my best, not saying that I'm like perfect godly woman, but like I don't know. That just resonates with me. I'm definitely going to look her up because the white trench and the scarf, I'm just like imagining like a movie poster moment. Like that is what I'm imagining.
Really? I didn't realize Carla was in the picture. I was just looking at her and I was like, oh wait, this is why this is on my
There's a whole saint in the picture.
There's a whole saint in here. Yeah. Also on the husband note, this is so funny. So this I think also speaks to like when dating versus when you're married and your husband like just knows you so much better. When we were dating, and again, this is in college, and I was experimenting with style here, there. And I remember going on a date, and like I would ask him sometimes, like, what's your favorite things that you love for me to wear? And he'd be like, I love it when you wear like a t-shirt and jeans. And I just looked at him and I was like, what? So confused. And I remember this dumbfounded me. I was like, but I dress so cute. Why do you like that? And so he would tell me when we were dating, he would say, he's like, well, it's because it's just I can tell it's just simple and whatever. But this bothered me, and I was like, but I put so much effort into my outfit. Anyways, as time went on and he got to know me better, the more he knew me, the more he actually could really appreciate and see what I was doing in different styles. So to this day, now when I do like liturgical style stuff and things, the outfits he compliments me on honestly, it happened to be the outfits that I did put a lot of effort in. I was really excited about it. He's like, whoa, like I love X, Y, and Z. He can appreciate it now because now he knows how I operate and the different things I experiment with. And now he's seen enough of my personal style that he's like, can appreciate it. So that's super fun because some people are like, is your husband? Is he supportive of all this? I'm like, yeah, he's a big fan. And it's influenced his style too. So he's always experiments with his outfits now, which is fun. He grew up with all brothers. And so you just wore whatever you had to wear for your game that day. But for him now, it's like he enjoys experimenting and trying different things. He'll tell people like, what was a big difference for you in marriage? He's like, oh, I don't wear things that clash anymore. I'm like, ha ha ha. True. But anyways.
That is really cute, but also like the continual dating of your spouse and like getting to know them, like that's gonna forever, or until everybody dies, but like that is gonna be a thing, that's gonna be a connection. I think that's so beautiful. I can't say that my husband fell in love with me because of my style. My personality was carrying me strong, okay, during our dating relationship. Because my
I
style
I
was
really
not
want
there.
some before after pictures. You keep mentioning this. I want to see these glow up pictures. That's so
Okay, well, maybe I'll send you some, but you cannot share them because, yeah, they were the things that I wore that were really nice were borrowed for sure. Because I'm like, oh, she wore that. It looks so cute. I'd love to try that. And so I'd wear it and I'm like, oh, I actually feel better. But then, I'm like trying to put things together, like, Anna, get some new clothes at this point. Like, my husband's always like, Anna, buy that. I'm like, no, I don't need it. He's like, I want you to buy that. Like, please buy that. So he's been very instrumental in me
oh,
actually having a beautiful wardrobe. I love it now. I feel so good wearing it. And it really, he has like better style than I did. And now I'm like, I'm going to brain it. I'm going to have a better style. I have liturgical things I can do. So I don't know. I love that. Yeah. With marriage and the style, like it just can play in and like just
yeah.
continue the growth of your love and the connection. But before we wrap up, I want to ask you more about your book because you talked about some of the things. Is there anything else you can give us before it's out? I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. Um, so the goal of what we would like it to look like is that it's going to be a visual guide. So there is going to be a lot of text for sure, but I don't want it to be, I want it to be a coffee table book. I don't want to be something that you're reading cover to cover. I mean, you could, it's really fascinating. But I want it to be something that you can just have out. You can go to a liturgical season. You'll have your color palette. You'll have your recommendations of textiles. And then there'll be like the reflection, the historical background. Um, yeah, and just different ways to see why there's this, the palette isn't flippant and the textiles aren't applied randomly, like how you'll be able to trace how each one has roots in history. So I want to be very visual, having like the juxtaposition of kind of some street style and classical arts. That's the dream. So if y'all can all, pray for me,
Yes, of
figuring out
course.
publishing. It is a wild world out there to get a book published. Like, man. So just, say a prayer that wherever the Lord has called me for this book to be released, that'll happen, and that I can have the patience to wait for that. I've been so ready to get this book out to people. So just pray for that.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Because something like that, I love table books that mean something. I know there's like table books that are like, oh, Monet and, whatever, this designer, and they're beautiful. Okay. But everybody has them as like, well, I have it because that's what it is and that's what it needs to be. But something that's like that, it's intriguing and it's something you want to pick up and you want to have out. And the pictures are
Yeah.
beautiful, I'm sure, because, it's about style and it's about textures and colors. And so I do really love that. I will pray that you will get a publisher who's amazing and who will get this
Thank
book out
you.
because I can't wait. I want to read it. Yeah. And I think that's just amazing. So I asked this question to all of my guests. Before we, end our conversation, if you could give women one piece of advice, it could be on this topic, it could be on something completely different, what would it be?
All women of the world, Catholic women.
All
What's
women
my
of the world. You can pick, it could be non-Catholic or it could be Catholic women. If there's
Hmm.
something that's on your heart that you're like, I really wish women would know this,
Hmm.
is there something?
Man, I'm always going to reference the martyrs. So in the story of saints, in the narrative of Saints Felicitas and Perpetua, um, you have this moment of both of them cheering each other on. They're both mothers, right? And this looks like, to the world, this looks like this is the end of them. This looks like their death. This looks like, wow, what a tragic story. These moms are just dying. But you have Perpetua, who her hair's all disheveled, which in the Roman Empire would have been a sign of grief and a sign of mourning. So she finds a hairpin. So in the middle of the Colosseum, she's dripping blood. She's about to be devoured by a creature. And she's like, one moment. She fixes herself. She puts her hair in an updo, fixes her hair with a pin because she didn't want the onlookers to think that she was in mourning. She wanted to make it a very clear and visual sign that this is my moment of triumph because I'm going to heaven, and that what this moment is for the glory of God. So that in your moments of what to the rest of the world, especially I think in motherhood and especially in your femininity, what might look like a tragedy or like, oh, poor you. It's like, no, this is actually in this very moment of sacrifice, this is where God will be glorified in my story, and just claiming that. So,
wow. I literally sat here with my mouth open because that is so beautiful. That would be the last thing I would think of. Honestly, I'd probably be crying like on the ground if that was ever. But like, holy cow, that is just beautiful. That she was still giving glory to God. She was like, this isn't about me and how I feel. Like, this is a triumph because of, I don't know, who God made me to be. I don't know. That's beautiful. Well, Mary, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking with us on this is such a fun topic, but it's also something that's really deep. It's really beautiful. And I think it's attainable for anyone who wants to build, a liturgical style wardrobe in their everyday. So thank you so much for talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's so good to be here.
And thank you so much for listening to the Woman Aesthetic Podcast. Let's connect on Instagram at the Woman Aesthetic Pod. And if you're loving the podcast, I would be so honored if you'd go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and leave me a review. Until next time.